Hi, and welcome to another All About Autism. Good evening. The date is the 1st of December 2022, and we're back in the studio. Me, Helen Mikellides, and Dr. Barry White, aka Dr. Chris Papadopoulos, with his gorgeous voice tonight.
Oh, you're teasing me, of course. But sadly, that might be an accurate description because my voice this week, I do apologise, but my voice this week's a little bit low. Been struggling with a cold. It's not COVID, but it's like quite a deep, raspy voice. But I'll try and muddle through.
You sound like a crooner. Have they been swooning in your university classes?
Yeah, they have been. They have been getting a little bit close. Yeah.
Lovely.
Anyway, how are you, Cuz?
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you are my cousin.
Right, yeah,
You are my favourite cousin.
Busted.
Helen. You are my favourite cousin. Oh, having said that, I hope the other millions of cousins that I've got aren't listening.
Cousins.
Yeah, because I say that to all of the cousins. But I love all my cousins.
Oh, that's good. And very diplomatic. You're quite the diplomat, Chris. Okay, so let's get started. Should we get serious?
Let's get serious. Sure.
Okay. Well, thank you to everybody who came to the last Autism Cafe at the Cypriot Community Centre. Got that one right this time, which was a couple of weeks ago. There will not be one this month, unfortunately, because it falls on New Year's Eve. So the next one is actually on the 28th of January. And we look forward to seeing you there. And we look for any sponsors, anyone who wants to donate any food or anything like that. We're also the charity is also raising money now to mark its 5th birthday, so they're doing a fundraiser. You can find it on Facebook, and anyone can donate by visiting the website londonautismgroupcharity.org, and the target is £1,000. I think. How much have you raised so far?
433.
That's not bad.
Not bad, and we started it a couple of weeks ago, so there's still a few more weeks until the fundraiser ends. So if you have a spare couple of pounds, please do consider donating to us, because we will put that money to good causes. We'll put it to changing people's lives, in a significant way. And the other thing is, we're a smallish charity, so even a small amount of money, relatively small amount of money, like a few £100 or £1,000, for us is a big deal, compared to the national charities who've got millions and millions who wouldn't feel something like that. No. So, and it's a really nice occasion, it's the 5th birthday of the charity
already.
Yeah, and so to mark it, we're doing this fundraiser. That's
fantastic. Yeah, anything that you can donate, even if it's £1, or even if you're a business. I mean, a great idea that we had the other day was if you're a business and you've done somebody a favour or done something for free or given someone advice and not charged for it, if they ask, oh, well, do I owe you anything? And you just, say, no, it's gratis or something. Or just ask them to donate £1. Give them a leaflet of the charity's leaflet. And there's a QR code in there. They can just scan that. Will take them straight to the donation page. Yeah,
or they can just go to the website as well, which is londonautismgroupcharity.org. And there's a big button that says donate, which you can do that very easily. Mm-hmm. That's a great idea, So if anyone wants to support us, if autism is something that is meaningful to you, that affects your life, that, has a place in your heart, please consider supporting us.
And with the 1 in 21 rate of autistic of autism, it's worth it.
Yeah,
it's worth it. So anyway, Chris, let's get serious. So tell me a little bit about the Greek community and their approach to autism and after diagnosis.
Yeah, so obviously autism, I think, isn't something that we talk about that much in the Greek community. Obviously it's changing now partly through this show and other things. But, if you think back 10, 20 years, it's not something that really came up. Certainly for me, when I was, growing up as a child and, young adult, I don't remember my family or any of my families or relatives ever talking about autism. It never ever came up, On occasion, maybe it came up in a very, very kind of secretive way. It was like, oh, that... there's someone that might have something, and but we don't talk about that person. But that's as far as it went, you know.
But we're old now, Chris.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about, there wasn't really much of it around in those days. So
exactly.
we weren't aware of it, the numbers weren't as high as they are now. So
it was just
something
exactly
odd about someone that wasn't quite neurotypical. They kind of, they just sort of know, an arostonjin domoro.
Right.
It was that kind of...
Yeah, it's that kind of thing, yeah.
There was that kind of perception. They didn't ask what the issue was. But then, they didn't have the awareness. They didn't have the kind of professionals diagnosing autism in those days, did they?
No, not all, no. And this is one of the things, I think because we didn't talk about it that much, because we didn't have the awareness, maybe like I think other communities were a little bit ahead of us in terms of awareness.
Do you think?
Yeah. But because of that, I think we, as a community, have been a little bit vulnerable to some stereotypes. And I think that is a problem for parents, because if the parents are a little bit vulnerable and influenced by the stereotypes, it might delay them getting the diagnosis, or it might not just delay them, but it might stop them from even wanting to pursue a diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is important that we change the awareness, that we improve the understanding and whatnot. One of the issues that I think Greeks sometimes kind of get things mixed up with is the idea that perhaps autism is the same thing as some sort of mental problem or mental illness. So I just wanted to highlight that, because obviously they are two very different things. Everybody has mental health, right? Everybody has that. So of course autistic people have mental health, but the idea of autism and mental illness being the same thing is not correct. They're two completely different things.
No, of course, of course.
So that's important to highlight.
Yeah, it's and it's also the growing out of it thing, isn't it?
Yes.
They think,
they
think they'll grow out of it when they.
I had that a lot. With my child, with my eldest son who was autistic.
Who from?
Just lots of people from just all around me, really. Some relatives, friends.
Really?
People that don't get it, really, and he'll grow out of it, and it's temporary, or you're worrying too much, and that's
that's
not really
help
helpful,
him, does it?
No, it's not. And
he wasn't going to get the help. I mean, I know Leo, and he's a really, really talented little boy. He plays the piano, he plays the violin. I've seen him. We never thought that he would do anything like that when he was very, very little.
Yeah. And that's a really great point, Helen, because that's something that in the charity we always tell parents of young autistic children that have hope. That is really, really important, because a lot of the parents of young, particularly the young autistic kids, they're just full of fear about the future, because they can't see their child ever achieving XYZ, or ever getting to the point where they're going to be independent, and they're comparing their children to neurotypical children, or whatever expectations they had initially. And that's fair enough. Do you know what I mean? We all do that.
Yeah.
But they've got to have hope, because I've seen it with my son, who went from totally speech delayed, had no speech up until he was 6, and even then it was delayed, to being very, very verbally articulate and very, very intelligent and achieving loads and loads of things, so, and it isn't just my son, I see it all the time. And so it's a journey, wherever that journey takes you, it takes you, but you've got to be hopeful. Do not write off your child. That's
great.
Really important.
That's such great advice. Actually, the grow out of it thing. When my son was diagnosed, sorry to all educational psychologists out there, but my one said, the one who diagnosed him said, he's got high functioning autism. I said, well, my first reaction was, okay, you're joking, aren't you? No, it's just he speaks 2 languages. He's just delayed. It's just speech delayed. And she said, no, he's got high functioning autism, but he'll grow out of it.
Wow. And that's a big problem, because I think again, going back to our specific Greek community, we might have a bit of a tendency to particularly trust professionals. That's, at least from my own life experience, that was how it was portrayed to me, growing up, that the doctors know, the professionals know, you got to trust the experts, which seems like a reasonable thing to sort of push. But the reality is a lot of experts and a lot of so-called professionals get it wrong, and they themselves are causing some of the problems with these misconceptions. So if you're, getting strange or unhelpful comments from professionals, or they're not listening to you and not taking you seriously, you've gone to your GP to try and get a diagnosis, a referral for a diagnosis, for example, and your GP just thinks you're just a complainy, difficult parent, for example, and you're over worrying. No, push back, trust your gut,
Absolutely.
your gut, and don't believe that all of the professionals know everything. Okay, you're the expert, right? And progress it and push it forward, as much as you need to. Trust yourself,
and get a second opinion, a third opinion, a fourth opinion. Absolutely. If you have to. If your gut's telling you something about your own child, then it's worth it. It's worth it, even if you have to pay privately. Just do it. Because otherwise, if you're waiting for the NHS, gosh,
they
wait forever.
They are a bit overrun with diagnostic referrals at the moment. There's a massive increase in referrals because, obviously we're getting more understanding and awareness of autism. So there's more parents sort of identifying it earlier. So more and more referrals are getting, sent to the NHS.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the NHS is, has got less.
Bursting at the seams.
Yeah, it's bursting at the seams. It's got less professionals. So, yeah, it is a bit of a problem. There's a big backlog of referrals. So if private is an option, although having said that, you got to just check that a private diagnosis won't limit you or have any sort of negative consequences in you accessing an EHCP, which is the Educational Healthcare Plan.
It won't.
Yeah, but some private diagnoses won't
help you. It has to be.
Won't open that door.
Okay.
Yeah. So you got to just check that the private diagnosis will not prevent you getting that EHCP.
That's
which
very,
is really
very important information. Write that down. Okay, so I mean, you say that with the Greek community and about autism. I mean, I was in Cyprus a couple of years ago with my son, and we were in a hotel. Went to the Ajax Hotel in Limsol. We booked it through booking.com here.
Oreo.
And we got there and there was no swimming pool. The swimming pool was closed because, for them it was cold. For us it was okay to swim in the swimming pool. But, because they'd had a cold winter, they hadn't opened it yet.
Right.
And, Serge loves the water. We had to have a swimming pool. Otherwise it was just, all hell was going to break loose. Okay.
Right.
What happens when you've got an autistic child? Everything has to be planned. Everything has to be, and there's no water in the pool. What do you do? So, I just turned into a Karen. I was, no, this is not good enough. I can't believe you didn't write it on booking.com that there's no swimming pool, and you've got swimming pool on the booking. No. So anyway, to cut a long story short, there was I think they must have told the customer service, customer relations manager that to come and find me. They must have shown her a picture of me on my passport. So there's Karen, go and find her.
Not just a standard Karen, a Greek Karen, which is like 10 times the usual
10
Karen.
times as fierce. And a parent of an autistic child, 10 times, 20 times as fierce. So she came and found me. She said, "Boronas miliso Kyria Mikellides." And I said, "Okay, yeah." So she took me downstairs, and she was really sweet. And she said, I think. Oh, sorry, I didn't mention that they had a spa pool downstairs, and they didn't have. They didn't allow him in there because he was under 16. So that's what turned me into a Karen, because he couldn't even use that one. So she chatted with me, and when I told her that he had autism, she was very, very sweet about it and said, "Ndaxi, don't worry, I will talk to the spa downstairs, and he can use the spa." That's
great. I mean,
it was fantastic. He had it to himself.
Yeah,
in the dark with really low lights. It was perfect. I
mean, what's more important than making a child happy? Do you know what I mean? Obviously, they've got their rules and regulations, but if you're a business person, you're listening to this. If some adaptation can be made to make the child happier, that's the compassionate kind thing to do, isn't it? You know, so if you can, you should do it. But I'm not surprised that Sergio found that really stressful and was having a meltdown about that, because it's always about expectations.
No, I had a meltdown.
Oh yeah,
he didn't have a meltdown.
Yeah,
I had a meltdown before he had a chance to have a meltdown.
Right. Yeah, you saved the day, it sounds like, and so did that manager. But you were worried because you knew that it was going to lead to a problem with Sergio.
What was
right?
I going to do with him all day long? He
yeah.
needed, he needed the calmness because there was, the excitement of seeing his cousins, but he couldn't be, because we went during the school time, because it's different from here. They don't have half term in Cyprus. So we went during the school time. So I just thought, what am I going to do with him all day if he's got no swimming pool?
Right. And was he expecting the swimming pool though? Because that's the thing.
Well, actually, no, he wasn't actually expecting it, because he doesn't really ask questions. He wasn't expecting it. I know that they have expectations, and if it doesn't go right,
that's the big thing. That's the big thing. Everything needs to be predictable with autistic children as much as possible. Obviously, that's the problem. Life takes you in unpredictable directions, and that's when a lot of the challenges emerge with particularly young children. But as much as you can, if you can plan, can make it predictable, can make it so that the child's expectations are being met, then that's going to be much better for everybody. But the reality is, in life, it doesn't go like that, and it's really difficult for the parent.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the parents often, because the parents are trying. You're trying your best. If me as a dad, thinking back to all my experiences, I've just been trying my best. But sometimes it doesn't go the way I wanted to, and it's tough mentally, and you can be hard on yourself. But
would you say that people are more understanding now with autism?
Oh, it's such a hard question.
Well, people on the outside, people who do own businesses. I mean, for example, I was watching the BBC News yesterday. Are we allowed to mention the BBC on this show? I think we are, aren't we? Are we not? Tony Nelfield was giving me the bug eyes. Okay, no, I was watching on the news today that they're actually, there's a Tesco in Poole in Dorset that's that's opened special hours for autistic shoppers. No music, literally low level lighting, autism friendly now. They're doing I think 4 hours a week. I mean, it's not much, but it's only 4 hours a week for their shopping, so that they don't get meltdowns in the supermarket. And there are some students in Oxford and Reading University who were actually architecture students, I imagine, building supermarkets which are sensory supermarkets. So there are places in the supermarkets for the autistic children or adults to go when they get overwhelmed by the supermarket.
That's brilliant.
All the lights and the music and the noises, there's somewhere for them to go. If
every big space, every big company should have a sensory room or a calm down room. It's great for autistic children or autistic people generally. Mm-hmm. Even if you're not autistic, sometimes you just need a quiet, calm space just to bring your anxiety down. I've been pushing for that at my university, actually, because it's strange to me that isn't a standard thing, those kinds of spaces. But going back to the supermarkets, a lot of supermarkets do that. They have autism friendly hours.
Do they?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So what you should try and do, if you're listening, you're a parent, especially for a young autistic child, try and do some research and find out when the best time is to go to these supermarkets, and if they're doing anything like that, an autism friendly hour or something like that. You'll find, our experience, or what we've heard in charity, is that it is like a bit of a game changer, those kinds of opportunities. It's
absolutely,
because otherwise a supermarket is a sort of sensory, chaotic jungle.
Volcano.
Volcano's a better word. And that's really tough. Very, very tough for autistic children, so it's a particularly tough environment because of all the sensory issues. Yeah. So, yeah.
And we're going to talk about how to make your home autism friendly. So, if you've just had a diagnosis, what to do next? It all starts in the home. And basically, that is the development of the visuals of the child and how life is in the home first. It's their safe place. That's where things are and need to be predictable. And it's the easiest place to make things predictable. So structure is the most important in all things. So, for example, when you structure things, that means there's a beginning and an end. When it comes to play, it's the difference between a board game, which has a clear set of rules and parameters, and a dressing up box. So you have to structure your conversation when you speak to the child. So it's better to ask open-ended, direct, focused questions than an open-ended one. For example, you say so that they fish around for the correct response, because an open-ended question can really, really just stress them out and make them anxious.
That's right. Yeah, open-ended questions,
such as
like vague, kind of broad, open-ended questions.
It could mean anything, couldn't it? It's like they're so intelligent. Some of them, and they're just going to literally just fish around and think, right, okay, so what are they getting at?
Yeah.
What does this question mean? Are they talking about it at this level? Are they talking about it at this median level? Are they talking about it at a high level? What kind of answer is this person who's asked me this question looking for? So it always gets very, very stressful for them. Best thing is, for example, saying, tell me 5 things about Holland, because it's specific and closed, instead of, what do you know about Holland?
Yeah, but I would say even further, only ask that question if they're interested in Holland.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it seems kind of obvious, I suppose. But the point you're making is, ask, direct, simple to understand, closed-ended questions. I mean, that is, even just, if your child is struggling with speech and language, and a lot of autistic children do, some autistic children are totally non-verbal for a long period, of their lives, or maybe forever. It can happen. Some have significant speech delay, which was the case with my son. Mm-hmm. A delay meaning eventually, the speech starts, but it's delayed. But regardless,
now he tells you when you're wrong.
Yeah, he's always sort of telling me off. But,
me too.
But regardless, you don't know what the future holds. So what you should do is keep trying to communicate. Even verbally can be useful. Even if the child's seemingly non-verbal, so long as you communicate in a way that works for them. Do you know what I mean? With those closed-ended questions. But the point I made earlier about try and talk to them about what they're interested in is actually fundamental. What you want to make sure you do is don't put your own interests and your own opinions and your own
try and feed it to them.
Yeah, don't try and push it or bring it into them. Yeah, exactly right. Instead, what you got to do is enter the child's world.
Yes.
So really, for example, when you're playing with the child, because play is like a very big,
developmental
point. Developmental point.
Yeah.
And even if your child seemingly doesn't seem to play like other children, and that is quite typical of autistic children. They'll play perhaps in a different way to neurotypical children.
Yeah.
Don't think that they don't enjoy playing, though. They just play in their own way.
Yeah.
And that's not to say it's worse or better. It's just different. But the thing is, again, always have faith in them and just adjust if you can to their playing style. So, enter their world, figure out what it is that they love, what it is that they're passionate about.
Yeah.
And even if that might frustrate you sometimes, and if you're fed up with it, you're doing your child a favor by just entering that world and being with them in a safe and supportive way. Do you know what I mean? Instead of
absolutely,
instead of sort of questioning or any kind of negativity. That's just great for building a connection with your child. And
that is how they actually communicate with. That's how a lot of autistic children can't actually process their emotions and show you their emotions. They're showing you their love is engaging you in their world and in sharing their special interest with you. That's how they communicate, and that's how they show that they love you, because you're in their world.
Yeah,
so
it's a beautiful thing, and when you're able to achieve that, and it is tricky, obviously, but if you will get it sometimes, and when you do, you'll see the child just connect with you, and you'll see the anxiety just disappear with the child, and when the anxiety is low, everything is better, so it's so much when it comes to young children and all ages, really. Anxiety is such a big part of it, so that's another benefit from playing and getting into the child's world. But the key thing is, don't put yourself on the child in terms of what you want, but rather enter the child's world. That is the key thing.
Never force them to do anything either.
Yeah.
That will always backfire.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they don't want to do it, don't make them do it. Straight, just you're going to do this and that's it. You know, it's kind of, you have to slowly get them to slowly approach the whatever it is you want them to approach, or the place that you want them to go.
That's right. You've got to give them the time and the space. You've got to be patient. Again, it's kind of hard for parents, because you've got to be, super mum or super
Everything's
dad.
Everything's going to take 10 times as long.
It can be, and you're probably, because it's a young autistic child, you're at the beginning of the journey. So you probably don't know that much still about autism, or you haven't built your, community connections that much. You haven't perhaps met other parents who also have autistic children. So you probably feel quite lonely and isolated. So your mental health might be quite fragile, and you might be struggling. So, it isn't to say all of this is easy, but these things do work, for sure. So if you can find your own ways of looking after your own mental health, when find, as a parent, find whatever it is that makes you happy, look after your own mental health. That's going to have massive beneficial effects for your child, because you're going to be in a better place to do all these things. Going back to communication, the other really important thing when it comes to communication is to perhaps consider using social stories or visual timetables. And this can be particularly good for non-verbal children, or again, children with significant speech delays.
Can you say a little bit more about social stories? What's a social story?
A social story is, a sort of graphical illustration of a process that is going to happen, right? So you're yeah. So it's like a visual guide, so that the child can see. So it might take the form of a short book, or maybe just some papers, or a whiteboard, or whatever it is. But the child can see what's going to be happening and what to expect. So, for example, you might be going to the airport tomorrow, right? So, you've got to prepare your child and let them know as much as you can that you're going to the airport.
And what it's going to be like when you get there.
Yeah. And so...
what's going to happen? Who's going to be there?
Yeah, as much as you can, prepare them, so that their anxiety is managed as low as possible. And a social story could be a great way of just giving the child some information in his or her mind as to what to expect. So the story will basically, graphically illustrate exactly what's going to happen. So there'll be maybe a picture of the child, sitting in the car, another picture of the car driving to the airport, and then arriving at the airport, and then being in the airport, and perhaps a picture of lots of sounds and noises, that are in the airport, and this sort of thing. Because
so there's that ties in with the visual timetable. Is it the same thing?
Yeah. So it's connected. It's connected because the social story is also visual. But it's a story. It's a story in that you're preparing the child for what's to come, and you're sort of storifying it. Is that a word? But visual timetables are more like, it's the same thing, but it's a timetable. So what's happening in the morning, what's happening in the afternoon, and in the evening, and perhaps you might write it out or draw things out. But it's more of a timetable of the day ahead or the week ahead. Whereas a social story will be more of a specific story to a specific activity that's to come that you're worried about. It's going to cause your child a lot of anxiety.
Yeah. So if I can just add to that, you can actually get the actual visual timetables. You can either do it by your own fair hand, or you can buy them ready-made from websites such as asdvisualaids.com. If you decide to make your own, Pinterest has plenty of examples to copy, but images of anything could be printed from the web, Google, for example. Apps such as First-Then Visual Schedule allow you to create a visual timetable on your smartphone or iPad when you're out and about. So they'll either come with ready-made images, or you can use those on your phone or from Google Images. Yeah,
that's actually a really good point about the apps. There are lots of good apps that will enable you to, create these visual timetables or social stories. So that's worth pointing out. The other thing is, other parents might have already made the social stories and might be willing to share what they've done. And so
let us know.
That's another really good reason for connecting with the community.
Absolutely.
The more people you meet, the more you're going to learn, the more you're going to share, and the better place you're going to be in. I just want to say, with the charity, we have an amazing Facebook group. It's a private group. You have to register to join.
Yeah.
But once you're in, you'll be connected with 3,300 other people.
There is so much information on there, so it's so helpful. The Facebook page is better than the website, in my opinion. I like it so because people are actually sharing.
Right, but what you can do is you can go on there, and it's particularly helpful for, you know, if you're a parent of a young autistic child and you're, again, sort of new into the journey and you're learning your way. And you could just go on there and say, look, you know, I'm trying to learn about visual timetables, you know, and post a question about who can give me some advice. You know, can anyone give me some advice about visual timetables? Or has anyone got a social story or to share? You know, try to join these kinds of communities. It doesn't have to be ours. It could be others if you like. But there's some great online supportive spaces that you can go on, ask questions, get really good information, and you'll just be in a better place, you know? So reach out. That's the other thing. You know, if you're a parent to a young autistic child, reach out and get support. You know, you'll find that lots of people are very
sharing
happy.
is caring.
Yeah, happy to support you. Yeah.
It's wonderful. But can we mention timers as well as the visual aids? You know, setting a timer for an autistic child to complete a task is helpful, because children's tolerance from a task is ASD children's tolerance of a task is more tolerable if they know it's finite.
Yeah, I wouldn't actually set a timer myself, to be honest with you, because it's pressurizing the situation.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so. I get the point, though. The point is, you know, you want to make it clear that there's going to be an end. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so this isn't going to go on forever, you know, and that's important. Again, it's part of the predictability element. But if you put a sort of, you know, a timer where they're seeing the clock counting down, their anxiety might increase in a way. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's a tricky one. Of course, all children are different. That's the other thing. It might be that timers work quite nicely for your child, but for other children, it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And that's another really important point. You got to find what works for your child. You know, we're giving general bits of advice, but the reality is every child is different, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Number lines is another one. So if you get a child to get dressed in their clothes and you lay all the clothes out and they're looking at them confused, just stick a Post-it note 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the clothes. See if that helps.
And that's again going back to what we were saying about visualizing things. You know, if you make things visual, you're going to make things clearer, and it's just going to be easier for your child. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the less muddle, the less ambiguity, the better. That is the key thing. Ambiguity is bad. Generally speaking, it's bad. So the more you know, predictability and visual, you know, clarity, the better.
So is that going to lead us to meltdowns? Should we talk about meltdowns?
Yeah, absolutely. So meltdowns are going to happen. Meltdowns are when your child, and it doesn't have to be your child, it could be anyone. Anyone can experience a meltdown. But it's when you really just kind of internally, psychologically collapse a meltdown. Yeah. You'll go from maybe 100% to 0% mentally. Mm-hmm. And it's really, really, really distressing and damaging for the child's...
Donna Williams, who's an autistic writer, described a meltdown as a near-death experience. Would you agree with that?
It could be for some children, for some people, it could be, you know, like that. You know, it's a completely distressing experience where they can't cope and they've just mentally collapsed. Yeah. And it's really, really sad. In front of
everybody.
Yeah, you know, and it will happen at any time, at any place, for sure, you know, and it's really sad. And so what you want to do is try as much as you can as a parent to avoid those situations, because that really hurts the child's mental health. Mm-hmm. It is really important to say that meltdowns are different to tantrums.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of people get that mixed up. A tantrum is when the child is essentially not getting what he or she wants, and they're being a bit naughty about it.
Yeah, and they throw themselves on the floor and
they've thrown a tantrum. Yeah,
just
and it's more of a
embarrass you
thing.
into buying them something and giving in.
You did that to me recently, didn't you, Helen? When we went shopping. Only joking. But
God, when did I go shopping?
But yeah, that's tantrums when you're sort of being naughty, really. Meltdowns has nothing to do with naughtiness, you know. So the child is not being naughty. The child just cannot cope. Mm-hmm. You know, perhaps whatever it is the child was expecting was going to happen or hoping that was going to happen didn't happen, and they've mentally collapsed in the same way that perhaps Sergio might have had you not solved it with the hotel swimming pool. If he had expected that swimming pool and in the hotel, and he wanted it, he needed it, he was banking on it, and he got there and it wasn't there.
Yeah,
that could
that
trigger
would
a
literally
meltdown.
Totally. If he was expecting it, luckily
Yes.
he wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
He was more concerned with seeing his cousins, thankfully, because he was actually with his cousins, so I don't think he cared that much, But we actually no, he did start. Actually, he didn't actually have, because he was a little bit older. He was a little bit older. I think he was 12 at the time, so it wasn't too bad. Had he been much younger, he would have had a meltdown for sure. But this is disgusting. I mean, he turned into more of a Karen than I did, but but only because he could actually communicate and tell them what he thought of them by now, But so I guess that's what the doctor meant by he'll grow out of it. I don't know, maybe he just grew out of the meltdowns. But yes, he has a meltdown when he's hungry and whatever. But he's a lot better now. But when they're younger and they don't understand, and you're in a public place, and for example, if the hunger sets off a meltdown, because they don't tell you when they're hungry, and then all of a sudden their sugar levels drop, and then or they haven't had a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
So it can just trigger, and you don't know what to do. You're in a public place. You're with friends who don't understand. A lot of them just think your child is naughty. It's really, really tough. It's really, really, really tough. They don't understand. If your child's not autistic, you can try and understand, but you don't understand the anxiety that the parent feels.
Yeah, it's tough on the parent, especially if you just feel like you're getting judged, or you actually hear the judgments. Why is your child so naughty?
Yeah.
You're trying your best. You've got a number of challenges. You're new into this game. Because it's a young child. You're new into it. That's the last thing you need, are those
Absolutely.
Horrible judgments.
You need the support. I mean, there used to be actually I bought Sergio a T-shirt saying "Aughty, not naughty." Did you hear of that? That company. I don't know whether they exist anymore, because I typed in "Aughty, not naughty" just so we could discuss it, and it took me to some really dodgy websites.
Oh my god.
So yeah, I don't think those sort of things exist anymore. But you do have kind of autism T-shirts.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether you want to put that brush on your child, but it helped me. I mean, I remember somebody stopping me at a festival, and just took a look at his T-shirt and said, "Oh, I really like that T-shirt." But it was it created the understanding at least.
Yeah.
When your child's having a meltdown in public, they don't have the skills to handle the situation they're in. They're in control in front of other people. Your job is to do whatever you can to protect their dignity and keep them safe.
Yeah.
So don't talk too much. There's no point telling a child who's having a meltdown to calm down.
No.
Okay, it's not going to happen, is it?
Not. Useless advice. That's just useless. Yeah, that won't work at all. No. Yeah.
You got to nip that meltdown in the bud. If you see they're going to blow, putting in speech is going to overwhelm the child even more, isn't it?
Yeah.
So avoid certain situation. If you can't explain the trigger, be aware of what happened just before the meltdown. Were there too many social demands, too much visual information, and then just don't put that child in the situation again.
I mean, try your best. I mean, a lot of things aren't controllable. It could have been a sensory. The other key reason for meltdowns can be sensory issues. So maybe the lights were just too bright, or there was flickering lights and the child couldn't cope with it. Whatever it is. The sensory environment is a potential trigger, unfortunately. The other thing I would say, just as my advice to parents is, you're not going to get everything right. It's impossible. Mm-hmm. And, you can try everything, but your child will still have meltdowns. It's going to happen. Yeah. So don't feel like too guilty about it, because you're trying your best and it's going to happen, right? It happens to the best of us. But what I would say is afterwards, try and if you can, reflect on perhaps what the triggers were. Don't just think, it's terrible that happened, and then, forget about it. I know it's hard, and I'm sort of asking a lot here, but try to reflect on what it was that triggered it, and that will help prevent the meltdown maybe in the future. And you'll just, it's food for thought. It's a learning opportunity, essentially, if you can.
Yeah. Okay. And, they might be a bit funny the next day. There's something called a sensory hangover. You heard of that?
Right. Yeah.
So they might be really out of kilter the next day after a meltdown. like a post Legoland come down, or somewhere being somewhere where there have been loads of people, and they just need to vent, and they need to stim as well. So tell us about stimming as well. That is so important.
Yeah, so stimming is when the autistic person or child is maybe sort of flicking their fingers, or flailing their arms,
making noises,
or rocking, or making noises. And they're doing that because they're trying to regulate their sensory processing.
Yeah.
And that is actually a really, really key way that the child prevents themselves from getting a meltdown. They're basically coping. So if you see that your child's stimming, in that they're engaging in some sort of repetitive behavior, right? If you see this, do not stop it.
No.
Let the child do whatever it is that they're doing. Maybe even participate in it, honestly speaking. Really, go and maybe get involved. But of course, if that doesn't seem to work, and that's having a negative effect, then obviously push back.
I'll try that next time. See what happens.
But that's really important. Do not interfere with that and let that play out, because that is the way the child is coping and preventing themselves from melting down. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd just like to. We haven't got long, so I just wanted to say, can I mention airports? Because if you're travelling, most airports offer some kind of help for autistic children who struggle with airports. Just go to special assistants. You can check in there. Every airport's got one. Stansted's got a special assistance page with a short video about its autism provision. www.stanstedairport.com. At the airport, guides to travelling special assistance. Autistic children can be fast tracked through security at Manchester, if our listeners are listening in Manchester. Gatwick has a visual guide for autistic children and adults. Just go to their website, gatwickairport.com. And Edinburgh and Belfast have the same. And Belfast has a special email address for autistic families, and a special book, Susie Goes on an Aeroplane, which it sends to families to prepare them. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're leaving from Stansted, just contact Belfast Airport and just get the book anyway.
Yeah. No, great advice.
So, do you have anything else to say? Because we're running out of time.
No, just to say, if you can support the fundraiser, that would be really, really welcome. It is the 5-year anniversary or birthday of the charity on the 18th of December.
Yes.
So that is the reason why we're doing this fundraiser. Your money will be put to good use in creating new community cafes, or supporting children or autistic adults with their mental health, for example. Yeah. So, we'll put that money to good use.
And legal issues as well.
Legal aid, all sorts of things. We spend every penny, that we get. So if you have got a couple of pounds, just go to LondonAutismGroupCharity.org and consider donating. That would be absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. And do you want to mention next month's topic, which is siblings?
You can mention it if you like.
Okay. So, next month we're going to have Sophia's brother, who is called Nick. And Nick is obviously Sophia's brother. So we're going to be talking about the experience and challenges that siblings have when it comes to their autistic sibling. Yeah. So it's a really important topic. We can't overlook the siblings and the wider family unit. So it'll be really, really great. I think it'll be probably quite an emotional conversation between Nick and Sophia, and that's the focus of next month's show.
Can't wait to hear it. So, thank you to Tony Nelfiedel for being our engineer again today. Thank you so much. You've been a star. Thanks for putting up with us.
Cheers, Tony.
Bye, everyone.